Today we'll be speaking to what I would do if I was an unemployed HR person in 2025 in our context in Eswatini, right? Hello everyone, welcome to Career Therapy. My name is Noetumjuli and I am the host of this channel. So imagine when you send out hundreds of applications per day in the online context, and anytime you get your post that kind of applies to you, you're always in the forefront applying, but there's no response. It's very, very frustrating, right? But what if I can tell you, Guti, there are tips that I can give you that can try and improve your job searching every day. And if you kind of employ these tips in your job searching, it could really significantly boost your job searching. And obviously, from my background as an HR person, I have seen a couple of CVs and I believe that I can impart some tips for you to assist you in your job search. Okay. So obviously job searching has changed over the years. Job searching used to literally be you walking in with the CV in the reception, those standoffish receptionists. I'll tell you guys my story one day of how I literally got my first job. But yeah, and you had to walk in there and just try and drop it off and you just never knew what happened. And today it's similar. It's just that now it's worse because it's online and you just never know if your CV even got to the people that are supposed to get it. It's like, yeah, every time you apply, it's like crickets. It's like you're throwing your CV into this abyss and go down on the other side, especially if you do not get a response. So, and more than even that, the competition is bad, guys. Like, it's so fierce. Like, people are educated out there. People are knowledgeable out there. People are charismatic out there, so the competition is worse. I find it where, there were less people that were educated, so it was easy to navigate the job searching market. But now, just to give you guys some context, I've brought in some stats. In Eswatini, current unemployment rate, not current, but the unemployment rate that was last recorded in 2022 was at a staggering 37.85%, which is huge numbers when you think about it. And then in the South African context, unemployment rate recently dropped to 31.9%, but this still is millions of people, right? And we are also in the international market where our job searching, isn't just limited to the country that you're based in. There's remote work options now, so the job market is even more open to international people that are more educated, that have been in reputable institutions. So it makes the competition literally worse. So it's important for us to stand out. It's important for you to stand out, and when you apply, make sure you are using whatever competitive advantage that exists for you, and make sure that you're really, really intentional about the process so that you are able to stand out. So let's get straight into the tips that I want to give you today. The first tip is build a CV that gets noticed, right? Build a killer CV. So actually, here's a question. Did you know that most recruiters spend less than 7 seconds scanning a CV? 7 seconds. Literally, that is how quick it is. And it's very important for yours to grab the attention immediately. And if it doesn't, literally, it's game over for you. So how do you fix that? How do you make sure that your CV is the one that grabs the attention immediately? Literally, the first thing is that you need to be very intentional. It's not just a formality, it's your first impression to the recruiter. So take your time to craft it properly. Okay, forget that one-pager myth. There's this myth that's going around that your CV has to be one page. Your CV has to be one page. Literally, I don't believe in it. I do think that maybe your CV doesn't have to be extremely long, but if your CV is 2 pages, it's not that bad. As long as you make sure that the content in there means something to the recruiter. I'll make an example. If you're applying maybe for a clerk position, or apply for being a clerk, and now you are you're putting in your application and it's unclear whether to own clerk one, where you are a filing clerk, where you are a bank clerk, where you are payment clerk, whatever clerk you were. But because when you're chasing space rather than context, then you are not able to show up the best way that you possibly can to the recruiter, right? For the recruiter to have context and understand what experience you actually have. So it's very important for you to be very intentional about that. Make sure whatever that you have in there is the right information. Don't chase the number of pages if the content in there doesn't make sense, right? And then I also want to speak to structure. The structure really matters. By structure, I mean the chronology. It's very important for you to make sure your most recent experience is at the top, not your experience when you are a shopkeeper, somewhere, can you also apply a position that's quite higher. So your most recent experience is the one that is supposed to be the one that shows up at the top, right? So it's very important to ensure that the structure's there, and get rid of the fluff, guys. Get rid of the whole, you got to CVs, my interests, and my hobbies. I'm a Christian, and all these things. As much as those things are nice, it's good for your employer, or rather the person that you like the place that you're applying to know about these things about you, but it might not be really important in your CV, especially when you are supposed to be constrictive in what you show there. So get rid of the fluff, right? Here are other mistakes that you can avoid. Avoid typos, guys. Nothing screams I don't pay attention to detail like spelling mistakes. And I'll be really personally mad at you as your friend. I'll be really personally mad at you because spelling mistakes, are easily eradicated by literally using the review option in your Word document where you actually type your CV. Yeah, one of the Word document where you type your CV, there's a review option there. It looks through your grammar and your spelling mistakes, your word count and everything. It's automatic. You literally just have to click that and get rid of the typos. So typos are a big no. Make sure you ensure to you use that functionality. You don't even have to read word for word. Just use that functionality to check what it does. Is your CV in a good format? Yeah, on generic CVs. I'm gonna talk to generic CVs in a minute, right? But yeah. So also make sure go to your CV, this is big, guys. Make sure that your CV is application tracking system friendly. Okay, so what does that mean? An application tracking system is literally a system that most companies use to recruit, right? It's an automated system that stands between you and the recruiter, or the human recruiter. So that system is very, very tough, guys. Literally, I think of it as like this huge transformer thing that's like standing in between you and your job, because it is so robust and it's so strict in how it actually does its shortlisting, or it's shortlisting actually. So if your CV isn't optimized, if your CV isn't tailor-made for that position, you will lose out on the keywords that are necessary there. So you need to use the keywords that are in the job description. Naturally, though, it should be a thing that is in sync. Don't lie. Do not lie. Make sure you look at the job description, because you already qualify, or you would like to think that you qualify for that role. What are the competencies that they're looking for? I'll make an example. If maybe you want to apply for a customer service consultant, right? And you already know you are in the front facing position and you do deal with customers all the time, and you're good in your communication, you're what to come customer, we are what to calm a mad customer or whatever, something like that. So it's very important for you to then, you just need to make sure that it's there in your CV, it's visible, and the recruiter can actually see this in your CV. And then also avoid the ATS system. Doesn't like fancy graphics, it doesn't like columns and all those text boxes and stuff like that. It really needs just a simple chronological CV that doesn't have a lot of fancy things. After all, you just throw it into the system and the system scans the words. So if you put text box and stuff like that, it can't read that. So it reads it as empty, and then now you find that you are not able to get that job, or rather to be called in, and you are mangalos. Why am I never called in? And it's because your CV has text box scans. We figure into an application tracking system. And also, I think another tip that I can give you guys is test your CV in an ATS checker tool. So there are a bunch of these online. I'll try and leave a link for one of them on the description box, where once you've crafted it, make sure to uyayifaka through the application and see, does it read it clearly? Is there any room for improvement in what you've already drafted thus far? And all those things. So make sure that you put it in there. So once your CV is sorted out and you're already literally ahead than most of these other applicants, right? So tip number 2, you need to apply like a pro, right? I know that most of us just hit apply and pray. And as much as that is good, there's an intentional process around you applying. You don't just leave it in there or a corner. That's just a big mistake. Yes, leave it to God because they are caller and you're Christians, but make sure that you are also very intentional around your process. Take apply. First of all, I know how exhausting applying is, especially if you are not already in the working world and you are literally just still trying to you're either a job seeker or an entry-level graduate so make sure you start with something that's mentally rewarding. I'm not sure what it is for you. Most people meditate, some pray, some exercise, whatever that you do, make sure that you do something that's mentally rewarding, because this process can be exhausting. So you need to kind of build mental resistance. Rejections, they take a toll on you. So that's the first thing I would recommend. Make sure that you're intentional about the process, about feeling good when you attack your day, right? And then now you need to just don't limit yourself to one platform. Right? So obviously we have our newspapers here, and I know that Times of Eswatini will post on Tuesdays. So what's on Tuesday, you have to paper. And even if you cannot afford it, that's not an excuse. Right now, if you're on this platform, if you're on Facebook or anything, you know that there are these pages for Facebook and them that post jobs, about jobs Eswatini, about jobs portal and them. And just make sure that you follow all those jobs, because they always post, even the ones that's a pepeni, they always post them. Another thing is, we all know with the companies right now, I have websites and LinkedIn, right? So make sure that you follow the companies that you want to work for, those that you want to join. Be intentional about that process of actually following these pages, so that you can always know once they post a job, right? So and obviously LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is there. It's good for us because also it doesn't just only limit you to Eswatini. There's also the international context. So make sure that you're always also applying in that space as well. I can do a deep dive of optimizing your LinkedIn. Just let me know. And then also recruitment agencies, guys. I know Guti labor brokers have a bad rep, and I know Guti there's some legal conversation around that. But I would say that you use the authentic or those that you've heard good reviews about Emma recruitment agencies. I know a couple in Swaziland. The good thing about a recruitment agency is that they do the job for you in terms of the application. You just have to just drop it there, and then they let you know if there's something that comes off from them. So just let me, I think that you can just drop in Emma recommendations that other people can use to kind of Emma recruitment agencies that have worked for you and your experience with them. Obviously, let's not do the negative talk, guys. Let's do the positive ones, the ones that you have and they treated you well through that whole exchange. Please make sure that you recommend so that other people can get assistance. So yeah, man. And I think that another thing that I really wanted to share about what I was talking about customizing your CV, late job description, you really need to review it. Now, since to customize your CV, you need to review the job description. The job description will give you, not the job description, the advert, because the advert most of the time comes from the job description. So the advert will tell you the competencies that they're looking for. So you need to marry the two. Marry your CV to the competencies that they're looking for in the job advert, right? So it's very important for you to make sure you marry the two. I did say, without lying, make sure this thing is a natural synergy where you actually do possess these skills that they want, and you are just making sure that you're highlighting it so the recruiter knows that you have all these skills that they're looking for, right? And then another tip that I can give you: respect the subject line. The job adverts that use emails, right? They usually have instructions at the bottom where they speak to the team. How should you apply? You need to attach how many references, you need to write what specifically on the subject line. And I want to make that call out because it's very, very important for you to follow those instructions. If they say apply for customer service consultant, you have to write it just like that. Because if you literally throw in your CV, you're just applying, saying applying, maybe let me make an example. You write on the subject line, I'm applying for a job. Yeah, there are a million other people that are applying for job in that email. So it's very important for you to be intentional about Guti. What do you put into the subject line? Who knows? Maybe even the recruiter uses that prompt to search for the applications. And when aleyako ayibonakali because you used another prompt. So make sure that you follow those instructions and you follow them to the T, so that you show Guti, you listen to instructions, and it increases your chances for you to being called in for an interview, right? So if you already do this tip, the first one and the second one, you are definitely putting yourself in an advantage compared to other applicants. Okay, that now brings us to tip number 3, which is connections are your secret weapon. So here's a wild stat, right? 80% of jobs are never advertised, which means that if you apply every time Makune job advert, that means that there's a market that you haven't tapped into. And I know, guys, with the connections has a very negative connotation to it because it gives corruption, it gives, oh my gosh, people are being given a better advantage. But by connection, I mean tap into your current network. Huawei. Now, you already have a network that exists. You have friends, you have family, you have past colleagues, you have someone that knows someone. So what we mean by leverage in those connections, we mean that always keep connections with your people. But like you already know, you're already following some of these people already on LinkedIn or whatever. Now you know, oh, this person has left this company. Oh, so that means that role now is vacant. But who was there? Now you ask your friend, hey friend, who was in that position, and what's the organization looking like they're doing? Have they already advertised internally? So that's what we mean necessarily leveraging your connections. Make sure Bobuti, the people that you already know, you are asking around these questions and ensuring Bobuti uyati ukuthi bobani. Do some healthy stalking. I'm really intentional about that word. They are healthy stalking. Stalk your line manager, the person that you want to work under, on your LinkedIn. Just check them out. What are their interests? And all those things healthily, though. Obviously, for the work context only. I need to make that disclaimer, right? And also, go out of your way to make new connections, right? So some of these people say, oh no connection yani, and we don't see the work that those people actually put behind to create that connection. Because some connections, you're not just born with them. Some people are really good with their interpersonal skills and they go out of their way to approach the people that they want to in their network and all these things. So it's very important for us to be intentional about that. If you're an extrovert, then that's great because it's probably easier for you to have small talk and stuff like that. But if not, ufananami, and you're an introvert, in the future I will speak to introverts and how they should network. And yeah, I think we're gonna speak about that further. But yeah, everyone needs to get out of their comfort zone and ensure to you make these new connections, as well as attend these professional events. So we all know Gutipanema seminars, and if you are also part of those bodies, I know that a couple of professions have bodies. I know maybe engineers have, in the HR space we have IPM, so you need to join these bodies, network with like-minded professionals, and also even if your company doesn't really invest in you guys joining these, literally do it from your own resources, because it's very important for you to understand what's happening in your space, the current best practices, the trends, what's happening in that space, what are your professionals talking about, and all these nice things. So it's very important for you to attend these events, attend these workshops, these seminars, and make in social clubs as well. You never know, in the gym, in church, wherever, make connections, you know. So I know it's a bit of a challenge for if you're a person who's very withdrawn. It's a challenge, but you need to kind of do it to make sure that you thrive in the corporate space, right? So yeah, so now that we're on tip 3, we are just going to rush into tip 4. And tip 4 is basically your online presence matters more than you think. So this is quite big for me because I know that for us, you know, you find that you hardly ever, LinkedIn isn't such a thing, you know, but LinkedIn is a thing, especially because now, like I said, the job market is opening even for the international context. And a stat in the international context is the fact that 80% of recruiters check LinkedIn literally before calling you in for an interview. So if your LinkedIn profile is so old, it's not updated, you know, you need to kind of work on that, optimize it. Make sure that your LinkedIn profile matches your CV. Yabona ungakhanzi ukuthi your LinkedIn profile seyisalemuva, your CV is up to date. Make sure that you have a professional photo, and even if it's not a professional photo, like just have a clear background and one that gives I'm a professional. Yabo. And you know, make sure that you engage. That's the last one. Engage, comment on people's posts, you know, share insights, just be visible, you know. And more than anything, I know, Guti, like I said, LinkedIn might not matter in our context because maybe we're not there yet, but it does. Like, how nice would it be to have Guti now figure in an interview and the recruiter has seen you on LinkedIn and has seen your insights, has seen what you're working on, has seen, you know, you're in their face, you know. That would really be nice because this person now will know exactly what you're working on and what you're interested in, you know, and you guys can then even have better conversation during that engagement, you know. So make sure what you work in your on your LinkedIn. And I know what's in most of these things, they're different for different professions. I know that for software engineers and designers and creatives, you might need to go a step further by even not just your LinkedIn profile isn't just the only thing that matters. You kind of also need to work in your maybe like create a personal website and, you know, show your portfolio and what you've worked on and stuff like that. So it depends on the field that you're in, you know. So yeah, those are my tips, guys. Those are the top 4 tips that I can give you, you know, to kind of enhance your job searching pursuit. One takeaway from this episode is the fact that job searching isn't luck, guys. As much as you want to think it's luck, it's not luck. Most of the time, there's a lot of work that has been put in by the people in the background. It's a strategy. You need to be robust. You need to be rigorous. You need to want it. You need to go out of your way to make sure that you are very intentional about the process. So just a quick recap. Craft a killer CV, make sure that you apply smartly, build connections, you know, optimize your online presence, and make sure Gogobuti you are visible, you know. So if you've made it this far, I don't take it lightly. I understand, Guti, you are really, really intentional about leveling up and showing up a good job search yako. So good luck with that, and I respect that. And you know, drop a comment below, let me know which tip you really, really liked. And if you have other tips that you want to share with the people on the comment section below, make sure that you do that. Otherwise, please do not forget to subscribe and let us meet on the next episode. Bye.